This time on One Foot Flipper, we answer the question, why isn't anything selling in your store that has tens of thousands of items? Stay tuned.
One foot flipper.
Hey, how's it going? Paige here, One Foot Flipper. Let's have a little bit of real conversation about why your items aren't selling. Why do you have a 20,000 item store and you sell 3 items a day? Is it eBay's fault? Is it your fault? Is it a little bit of both? Let's dig into it. I think to dig into it, you really need to stop thinking about it from the eBay perspective and think about it from the perspective of your customer. Say your customer is buying books. Customer might browse around in the books and determine some titles they're interested in, but the overwhelming majority of customers who do that will then search for the specific title and actually find a good deal on it. Most of them will not buy the first thing put in front of them. This seems counterintuitive because those same eBay customers somehow don't see coupon codes that are right in front of their face, but they absolutely will search for the best value. And that's really easy to see too. It's easiest to see actually in books and media, just because there's so many copies of each one usually available. Go search price lowest first. Take a look at that. Then go search solds. You will find those solds are going to cluster around or possibly even below the currently lowest listed price. If you're $2 too high, your item's never going to sell. And that can go for any category. $1 too high, $2 too high. I had a copy of Wii Sports, didn't sell for 2 months because I put it up, cheapest price on eBay, but somehow that very day, the going rate for it changed, and I was $1 too high for 2 months. Dropped the price by $1, it sold in an hour. So your customers are actually looking at things based off price. Sure, promoted listings can help get that item in front of your customers' eyes. And I believe that can be important for things like hard to search things, strange antiques, weird glass, clothing in particular, because clothing is one of the most saturated categories on eBay. Outside of there are a few that are worse, but one of the most saturated ones you can actually make a decent living at. There are some more saturated categories that are just impossible to make a living at. I don't think if there's one person who makes a full-time living on eBay selling Beanie Babies, I'd be surprised. I bet that current total is at 0 and has been for years. Hey, if you do know that person, post them down in the comments. Hey everybody, we're down here in the basement and we're gonna try to do some sales. Let's see what we got here. Sold these very mostly empty sprue of Warhammer tank pieces for $23. That box of mysterious sprues has made me a ton so far. Sold a lot of 100 Pokemon cards, all reverse hollow, $10.80. Sent that out on a 10% discount. My base price on that is $12. I sold an ornament that's supposed to say Aiden, but for some reason I don't have any that say Aiden, so it says Andy. Apparently, when I imported my ornament listings through 3D sellers, it did not get the quantities or the names correct. I don't know what happened, but I'm encountering this all over the place now. Luckily, we know how to erase the names and put new names on them. I sold 3 Santa's camera ornaments, $14.58 plus shipping. I did have the right names for those, although they also picked the most common names in the world: Thomas, David, and James. At $4 each, I sold a total of 12-inch straight train tracks. I don't know what to do about train tracks. The straight train tracks are selling like crazy, and the curves are not selling at all. So I'm going to have to come up with some solution to get the curved track out of here. I guess I'm going to have to just put it into big lots or lose money on it or something, because I don't want curved tracks sitting here for years. In fact, I don't want anything sitting here for years. Let's see, what else do I got here? I got a record album. Got Badfinger. I sold it for an amount of money that we'll see in a second when I get back over by the computer. I also got Paul Simon, Crazy. After all these years, what did we get for those? Badfinger was $15.70. Paul Simon, $2.81. Sold a partially full bottle of vintage cologne, sold as a collectible though, not sold as a partially full, sold in the collectibles category, $25.06. That came from a $2 box of perfume and trinkets that I bought last year. I believe that $2 box has netted me about $1,000. Hey, got a return came in. That's okay. He was at least nice enough to put it in as a remorse refund, so at least we each paid the shipping one way instead of me paying it both ways. Sold a Tetris Tower 3D game. It is missing one piece, but it's statistically unlikely that would ever actually come up in play because you don't get to pick which pieces you put in. The computer tells you. So it would have to get down to the game both not being over and it getting down to the last piece of a specific color. And I played it with my daughter multiple times. We never even got close to running out of any in particular pieces. I sold an Avalon Hill war game map for, I believe it's for Battle of the Bulge, and that was, what was that? $5.89. Actually, I had to carry that back downstairs because that's still upstairs. Carry it back down here to take a picture of it, then send it back down. Sold an ornament that's supposed to say Diana, but it says Destiny. See, those name problems I was telling you? So it's going to say Diana when it leaves here, hopefully. All right, and for $1 million and a bag of cat food, I sold The Parent Trap sealed on VHS, or $3.40. And I sold a Sega CD game. What is it? It is the Magic Carpet. I finally figured out a good use for DVDs. You open the DVD up, you throw the DVD away, and you use the case for loose video games. Because there's a chance someone will buy the loose video game, but nobody was ever going to buy the DVD that was inside. That sold for $9.30. All right, that's all the sales I got for now. See you upstairs. If you're putting your items up priced too high, there's nothing eBay is going to be able to do to make those items move. And if you put all your items too high, makes your sell-through rate start going down and down and down, and eBay is paying a little bit of attention to your sell-through rate. And when it's more random what they're going to show to a customer, they are going to tend to show the people whose items sell as opposed to the people whose items don't sell. That's very obvious to anybody who's studied it and actually looked at it. And it's also not weird for a store with 10,000 plus items to only get a couple of sales per day if the items are all junk or overpriced. For example, I still have a card store open. A card store has 11,000 listings. I have not added any new inventory to that store any more cards to that store in a year and a half. And over time, my sales on that store have continually gone down because there's really nothing good left. Sometimes the prices of cards, and I use a minimum price of $1.99 in it, so for most of my cards are overpriced because there's somebody out there probably selling it 99 cents shipped instead of $1.99 plus shipping, losing money on every transaction, but that's another thing. But that store is 98% garbage right now. As prices shift around, some things, the card values bubble back up the top, and some of that garbage sells. And it gets a few sales every day. It still never missed a day. It still pays its store bill. It still turns a profit, so it's still open. But that could be the same thing with your 10, 20,000 item trinket or clothing or media store, is that it could just all be garbage at this point. Everything good you put up already sold. All you have left is the bad stuff or the overpriced stuff. Every once in a while, the prices will shift a little bit, and one of your prices will become good, and the item will sell. But that's rare in media. Most media is downward trending in price and has been for years. Actually, I wouldn't suggest anybody become a media specialist at this point. If you're already good at it, if you're already going, hey, keep it on. But if you're looking for something to specialize in, I would not start on books or discs of any kind, because the average number of sales and the average sale price on those just keeps going down year over year. And do you want to specialize in something that is in decline or something that is steady or even rising? Not really sure what kind of categories would actually be on the rise year over year. That would be something to look at. I know actually Blu-rays have actually been up year over year a few years in a row, but I think that's just a side effect of the dying DVD market. The DVD market is still much larger than the Blu-ray market is. In fact, I think when I looked at that, the VHS market was actually larger than the Blu-ray market was. Apparently, nobody ever really cared about Blu-rays because they came out around this, they started getting widespread acceptance about the same time people stopped buying discs. So, what can you do to fix that store? Let's say you actually believe in me and you're saying, oh, Paige, maybe you're right. Maybe it's my items or my prices. Maybe it's not eBay's fault. Or maybe they're only hiding my items because nobody would buy them even if they showed them. Because that can absolutely be the truth. You could have 20,000 items in your store. Every single one of them be bad, and eBay will hide most of them because they're just wasting their time and their bandwidth and their customers' time by showing your items. If your items, if your book is $9 and everybody else's is $5, that's never going to be best match. Ever. Best match generally will be at least somewhat competitive in price. It's rare to see best match be something that's way out of whack for price. It's usually not the cheapest. It's usually often not even close to the cheapest, but it's usually in the realm of areas where people actually purchase. But if you're 50% or double market, you're not going to show up as best match. And you're not going to show up when they search by price either. Which leads me to be, those of you with these huge stores who aren't getting sales, how do you price your items? Do you just guess? Do you just look, and say, why do I never have anything I need when I want to do something like that? Oh, you say, hey, old iPhone, that's probably $40, and you list it at that price. Don't even look. Now, I know most of you viewing this isn't you. You don't do this, and you can't believe that anybody else does this. But the number of sellers that are in their shed, with their Uncle Earl and their cousin friend from down the street and 2 cats, listing all their stuff, they don't look up prices at all. They just guess. And honestly, the bigger the store, the more likely the seller price guesses their items. In fact, for the most part, the bigger the store, usually the worse the store. If you were putting in good items and good prices in the first place, you would probably never climb to 10, 20, 30, 40,000 items. The reason my card store is so big is because, hey, like most big card stores, most of it's junk. Now, it's possible to have a very large store that's all excellent items, but it's extremely difficult and very hard for one person to do that, unless it's some sort of drop shipping or you've got endless supply of everything. But even then, if you're drop shipping, chances are you don't have the best price in the first place. You ever forget completely where you're going? I feel like I'm at this point in that video, forgot completely where I was going. Sat down, started the video. I think it's this new ring light I've got is just hypnotizing me. Anyway, you actually have to research prices. You have to look at both prices that are currently available and solds both. And you need to do this for every single listing. Not just the rare items or once in a whiles or whatever else. You might think that you're a specialist, but you aren't. I cannot price things in my specialty without comping. I can look at it and ballpark them, and I'm usually pretty close, but I am not close enough to set the price on the item that will sell. I always either undershoot it or overshoot it if I'm just guessing. And that is the same for all of you. I don't care how much of an expert you are on shoes or clothes or sports cards or scooters, beaver ashtrays, waffle hats. It doesn't matter. There is nobody out there who just intrinsically knows the current market price of every single item in a broad category. It just isn't possible. If you can do it, go ahead, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you about that. But it really, if you want to sell your items, price check every single item. Don't be like the people with the waffle hat and their cousin from down the street who just say, oh, this tripod looks cool, probably $50. It's not. I think that tripod was $14 shipped. And if you want a nicer tripod, go around garage sailing for 1 day, 2 days. You can probably get a huge, big professional one that could hold a VHS camcorder on it for $5. I know, because I've got 2 of them. Alright, back to basics though. Price check every item. And here's another truth. The lower the item's price, generally the worse the item. If people really wanted that item, you know, that Quigley Down Under DVD, you know, that iPhone from 6 years ago, then it would actually have some value. It wouldn't be hanging out at $5 shipped or hanging out at $20 for a phone. The price would be higher if people actually wanted the item. But people don't want the items. The price slips and slips and slips. You're not going to find a lot of examples of items that are both incredibly cheap and have an incredibly fast sell-through rate, with the exception of some replenishable type items. You know, I mean, I'm certain there's like batteries for certain items that are both really cheap and have a fast sell-through, but, you know, you're not finding that at garage sales. That stuff isn't at Goodwill. That stuff is coming directly from the manufacturer, and that's a different story. I don't think most of you buy your items from the manufacturer. If you do, you probably wouldn't be watching my videos. You're in the ivory tower looking down on the gold-plated shed, watching it drive around, towing the other shed behind it. You're not me, you're not watching this, you don't know the guy with his cousin in the shed. You are on a completely different level than all of that. All right, I think I completely rambled and went nowhere today and very much overlapped with my last video. If you know anybody who completely rambles and goes nowhere and overlaps their content, why don't you tell them about this channel? I could use the subs. Thanks, and goodbye.